I've spent a lot of my life avoiding things. Not big things, mostly small ones. A conversation I kept putting off. A room I'd walk past instead of into. A phone call I'd reschedule until it didn't exist anymore. This video that I've escaped writing a script for numerous times. And each time, immediate relief. Clean, total, convincing relief. Convincing to a problematic level. The relief is there, but you're not sure if you're in the right direction of things or not. An anxiety is essentially a state of hypervigilance. Our brains are predicting machines. They often scan for threats, trying to unfold uncertainties. An anxious brain is a predicting machine on overdrive. It's hypervigilant. It scans for existing and non-existing threats, sometimes tagging simple tasks like a phone call as a threat. And whenever an anxious brain marks something as a threat, it shows up as both physical and mental symptoms. Increased heart rate, faster breathing, feeling of tension. These are part of the physical symptoms. Difficulty concentrating, rumination, and overanalysis. These are part of the mental symptoms. And every anxious person knows how each of these feel. But this video isn't to talk about what an anxiety feels like. This video is to explain something profound I understood about an anxiety. An anxiety is a feeling, and feelings start in our heads. And feelings are not ever existing. They have peaks, they have times, and they have triggers. Anxiety, like any feeling, rises, then peaks, then it falls. This is because the nervous system cannot hold that pitch forever. It's not built to. This is called the anxiety curve, and it has more into it than what sees the eye. But before we talk about anxiety, we need to explain another close friend of anxiety: avoidance. And avoidance is the life support of anxiety. It keeps anxiety alive. Avoidance is basically any behavior that reduces exposure to something that triggers anxiety. And paradoxically, the more you avoid something, the more you get anxious from it. Let's understand the curve. Anxiety starts with uncertainty, a situation you can't predict. Once the anxious brain flags the situation as uncertain, anxiety rises. Whether in a fast way or a slow way, the curve starts to rise. Then it reaches a peak. And the peak is where every symptom happens. The racing heart, the faster breathing, the brain fogging, you name it. The peak is characterized with the feeling of losing control. You feel like the situation is far above your capabilities. But the peak doesn't last for too long, because the body has a limited capacity to sustain this maximal stress activation. Eventually, the effects begin to fade, even if the feared situation remains present. Anxiety usually plateaus and then declines. This is called habituation. Habituation means that you've encountered the situation and survived. And the more you allow anxiety to pass through, the more habituated your brain becomes. And anxiety decreases with the next situations. In the anxious brain, it can get more difficult to reach habituation. But eventually, you'll be there if you allow the peak to pass. Avoidance is the enemy of habituation, the arch nemesis. Let's look at the curve again. You meet the uncertain situation, and anxiety starts to rise, it peaks, symptoms start to show up again, the same feeling of losing control happens, the situation still feels above your capabilities, you can't handle these feelings anymore, you decide to avoid the whole situation. You literally escape the whole curve. You go back to point zero, where you didn't feel anxious. The symptoms end. You have a very convincing relief. The situation to you felt heavy, it felt difficult. You start explaining in your head and convincing yourself that you did it because it was scary. And your brain accepts the idea. Habituation is dead. The same situation not only feels scarier now, you have given your brain the permission to flag it as a threat. And trying to enter it again feels even heavier. This is avoidance. See this point where the anxiety peaks? This is what we call a choice point in psychology. You have a choice, either to continue with the anxiety curve and let the body do its thing and deplete its resources until anxiety resolves, but now you're habituated and the situations feel lighter with every time you do them, or you enter the avoidance direction, feeling immediate relief but losing the benefit of habituation. A long-term asset lost for a short-term relief. The choice feels difficult, I know for sure. We've all been there. Ironically, the peak is where most people leave, but it's also where recovery begins. And the truth is that you will not win every time or lose every time. But understanding that you have a choice is important. It gives you direction. It allows you to choose. And how you deal with anxiety is a choice. Yes, sometimes it may feel like you don't have a choice, but you do. And anxiety will decline, whether you choose that or not. The only point that remains here is, are you ready to choose or not?